Welcome back, crew. It's June, and we are diving into the amazing Die RPG system by Kieron Gillen. And today, we're going to get into the meat of the RPG, going over the core mechanics of the system, showing you how to resolve your dice rolls, how to handle combat, and even how to handle death in the system. And that's kind of a cool or unique thing for both the comic and the RPG world of how death works in the Die RPG. So if you don't want any spoilers for the comic, skip the last section of the video because we'll be going into what that means and how that works for the player. But before we dive in, I do want to give a shout out. We're doing a little bit different this month. We're doing two live plays of the Die RPG. It's going to be a part one and two, going through one of the rituals they provided in the book, which kind of like a frameworks for adventures. We're gonna have a whole video on that. Keep an eye out. And definitely, we're gonna go through it as usual, show you a live play of the RPG, showing off its mechanics and the fun you can have with the system. And as always, one lucky viewer will have a chance to win a free PDF copy. And we're going to be doing this on June 27th, Tuesday at 8 p.m. And then that following Thursday, June 29th, as well at 8 p.m. And we're going to be giving away the free PDF copy at the end of the Thursday session. But we're also, since we're doing a little bit unique with this one, and since it's based off a really cool comic book, we're going to be giving away a digital copy of Volume 1 on Tuesday, June 27th. So make sure you come through for that. And hopefully, if you got some Nat 20 luck, you'll be able to get both the comic and the RPG and bring something really cool to you and your players. So stay tuned for those. There's a link in the description for part one. Sign up for it, get the notifications. I'm super excited for this one. I think it's going to be a fun one. Yeah, let's get into the core mechanics. So the RPG is a pretty mechanics light system. So it's kind of like almost in between mechanics light, I would say. The base system is pretty light on that side, but the nice thing is the class. If you saw our video before, adds some like ridiculous craziness to it, which is a lot of fun, and I think keeps it engaging throughout a campaign if you wanted to run it with one. But yeah, let's get into the rules. Luckily, if you watched our character video build, we went over the main statistics and kind of what they mean, as well as the defensive stats and how to resolve those. But today we're going to be getting into the core mechanics of rolling the dice. With this, it's a dice pool system, so it's going to be based off these six dice. So one of the unique pieces there, I think I've mentioned it before, but I like it. Each of the classes has their own die, which have special abilities you can see in our video before. But the fool shares his dice with a d6. So outside of that, the dice are unique. But the way you roll in the system is you build dice pools based off of your characteristics. So, like if you were going to make a melee attack, you had a three in strength because the stats are always 0 to 4. So basically, however many points you have in them or how many dice you get to use. So if that's same player with a three in strength would get to roll three dice and basically see how they go for 'em. And you're maybe wondering, how do you know if it's a success? With this system, if it's four or above, it's success. So with that, if you roll those 3d6s, even the ones that are four or above are going to count towards a success towards you. So kind of going along with that, when you do make your dice rolls, the game master is going to set the difficulty. The difficulty has three different options. It can be something that's kind of a base roll, which would be a 0. So any success that you get kind of guarantees you to get at least part of what you would like. But he can go from 0 to 1, which is something that's kind of stretching the limits of what's humanly possible, or 2, which is pretty much right near beyond the limits of impossible. It's pretty much improbable, but it's something that you can push your luck and try to do, or maybe you're very talented to be able to do what's improbable to others. So pretty cool. That keeps it fairly simple. Game Master sets the difficulty. You roll the dice. For higher or good. Anything below that's a loss. So, with that as well, you get to go through and count advantages as well as disadvantages. So, if you're coming from 5e, this one may give you a little bit of pause. So, you don't get to roll whatever amount of advantages or disadvantages on your pool twice. What they do instead in this system is they either give you a d6 or take away a d6. So, advantages, if you put yourself in a good position, made a good argument, whatever that you've done to really kind of set yourself up for this role, the game master can say, hey, you get one, two, or two, or however many advantages they feel are appropriate for that situation. And vice versa when it comes to disadvantages. They can go through and say, hey, this is happening, so you take away dice that you'd normally roll with your pool. Keeps it pretty easy on that side. You can kind of just add and take away those dice. It keeps the math, I think, pretty clean as well, in my opinion. And then basically you just gotta go through and roll. You roll your d6s on that. You see how many successes you have. You minus out any difficulty that your DM set. So if you rolled 46 and you had 3/6 or 3/4, you'd go through, and if you had a difficulty of two, you'd minus out two of those successes, leaving you with that final one and leaving you successful there. So a little bit of math on that side, but pretty straightforward. And it's basically just kind of keeping in track what your DM set as a difficulty, and then minusing those out from success rolls to keep everything in track. So pretty straightforward on that side. So that was kind of the core mechanics of the dice. So that's kind of the base area. There's another piece will go along with it because the dice mechanics do have a special ability if you do roll a six on your d6. And what that does is it activates the special. So this is usually going to be determined by either your class or the weapon you're using. If you have a special option for the D6, there is a variant rule where game masters can kind of work in special options for those D6 or the six pluses if they wish to, or certain situations if it fits. But typically, it's going to come from your class or your kind of equipment that may give you that bonus. And basically, as you see, it kind of give you a special like +1 guard, and you'll apply whatever that special ability that's given to you for it. Now, note most of the equipment ones are usually just need one 6+ to succeed. Some of the other ones you may need multiples for some different class options or abilities available through there. So pretty straightforward on that side. The one of the cool things, and I'm looking forward to doing this. I may even up it a little bit so to get a little bit more chance to bring it in for a two shot. I haven't decided yet, but with this, you can do real world flashbacks because remember with Dice, your persona are brought into this game world, so they you kind of create people that are living in a real world that are brought into a game world. And so they can bring back flashbacks to their real life to something that may apply to the situation to get an advantage. They can do that once per session, rules as written. I'm doing a two shot. I want them to get some use out of it. So I may do two options. I haven't decided yet. Just so they can kind of flashback and get that advantage and add that extra dice to the roll. Sweet. So we kind of went through the base mechanics of rolling the dice. We're going to step into the combat and how health and guard and all that works. During our character build video, we went through the core mechanics of guard and health. Just a little quick refresher. Guard is set by your dexterity, and basically it allows you, if you're hit, rather than it going into your health and taking a wound, you can lose one guard point instead. And you have up to your dexterity amount in guard. Once your guard is down, you will take health instead of guard when you're hit. And your health is based off of your constitution. And once you hit zero health, you are knocked unconscious. Now, if you are not treated or brought back, kind of stabilized or healed before the end of combat, you will die. So this isn't like 5e or even Pathfinder where you can kind of after combat ends or even after the foes are down, you can kind of use that initiative spin to get people healed back up. If the last foe falls and combat ends and you are not brought back, you die. Or if you hit negative HP, so somebody hits you while you're down, or for some reason hit negative, you die. Cool thing with IRPG though, and this is spoiler section, so if you don't want spoilers, gonna pop through. Uh, if you do die in the IRPG, you can still come back. But you're gonna come back as the Fallen. And the Fallen are kind of the big enemy, the kind of the nameless, faceless horde of enemies. Typically nameless, faceless horde of enemies within the IRPG, but if a PC dies, you find out that they're made up of former PCs. So if you are a player character, you die, you go to be fallen. You're not kind of the mindless version of them. You still have some of your character traits, but you do kind of have a inclination, I will say, to try to kill your other PCs because the only way you can go home and become human is to kill one of your fellow players. So kind of cool that side. I thought that's a really unique take. So death isn't the end there. Even if you die as a fallen, you come back at the end of the combat. You can't be killed completely as a fallen. So it kind of some cool, unique pieces that you can do with this. And I feel like this game is like perfect for getting some good RPG or role playing in and building some cool drama with it. And I think that adds to it as well. So, spoiler section over if anybody skipped. Should have did this after combat, but hey, we'll go along with it. So with that, combat's pretty straightforward in the system. Basically, the order players will go in is if the highest dexterity score goes first, down to the lowest. If there are any ties between the GM and a player, it goes Persona, GM, back and forth until you get all the players and the GMs done. If there's a tie, which it could be because it's only four numbers on that side. But basically, after that, you go into the combat. Regard resets at the beginning of each combat. So if you lost your guard in one combat, when the next combat starts, you're back up to your full amount and equal to your dexterity score. And then basically, you get to go in, take your turn, which we'll touch on in a second. And basically, combat goes until everything's dead or players are ready to stop swinging. And remember too, with this system, it does kind of encourage a little bit of PvP depending on how you play it. So that could definitely be swinging against the players too. So that could be kind of a good spot for a narrative resolution, depending on how it's going with the crew. Sweet. So on your character's turn, you can move and attack, or you can double move. There's four ranges in this combat. So the nice thing with this is you don't have to play it on a grid if you don't want to. There's far away, which like you could if you could hit if you were a sniper, it'll take two moves from being far away to get into medium range. There's medium range, which is like kind of regular gun range, or kind of gun, bow, or any type of ranged weapon to be able to shoot that far. You can use one move to move into close range. Close range is throwing weapon range. This is where you throw like an axe or a spear, whatever may be using at that side. There's another one that you can take one move from close range and the melee range, and then melee range you can kind of go at it and just make regular melee attacks as normal. So we're gonna go over how to make an attack. It's pretty straightforward, and this one kind of uses the same core mechanics as the rest of the dice rolling in the game does. So with this one, it's going to be based. So if you're rolling an attack, it's going to be based off of target's defense, your difficulty. So if they have zero defense, you don't have any difficulty points. You'd have to roll and just get a success, and you're good to go. If they do have a defense point, kind of the same way as difficulty, you'd remove one of your successes, and if you have any remaining, you'd hit. So with that, if you're using a melee attack, strength is going to build your dice pool. Some of the weapons, like the rapier, will allow you to substitute dexterity for strength in those situations, but typically it is going to be strength. Ranged weapons are going to be dexterity, and then magic is going to be determined by your class, with wisdom being for the god callers, intelligence being for the neos, and then charisma being for some of the fools that can get spell casting options. So with this too, so count successes and hits for this. One big difference on this side is if you roll zero successes when attacking someone, so none of the dice came up above a four or four above, you would take an attack. Because basically, if you roll those zero successes and somebody could possibly attack you, the attacking character will suffer a hit. So it just kind of goes right through, and you will take that one wound from the damage there or one guard if you still have guard available. Now, on the flip side, if you get a success, but their defense removes that success, they don't take any damage. But the nice thing is it takes a lot of their concentration to fend you off, and the next attack against them will have an advantage dice added to it. So it gives you a little bonus for those near misses, which is always nice. It's always a little harsh when you get like right there and miss. So this way you can still do this and give a little bonus to your team as they're going through. We've already touched on the dealing damage side. So we're just going to touch on a couple of these unique cases on this side and kind of go over how those mechanics operate. One of the biggest being, and you can do multiple targets with one attack. This one's pretty straightforward. You still just roll your one dice pool. So the kind of if you're rolling, I don't know, like the dexterity, we'll say a strength attack. You roll your three strength die, and basically you go through each character individually who'd be in this multi attack blast and determine if they would be hit, and if they're hit, how many wounds and guard and all that type of damage do they take? Similar with that, spell attacks, you kind of do something similar. You roll the dice pool once, but some spell attacks have a difficulty that you have to meet. So if you meet the difficulty, then you go through and apply that same dice pool that you rolled, kind of successes compared to whatever creature you're up against. So pretty straightforward, and I like how they have the one dice roll that says everything. That way you don't have to keep rolling dice and keeps them kind of keeps everything moving, in my opinion. So with that, you got a couple unusual attacks, which would be the last few pieces we cover on the mechanics video. So if you do a non-lethal attack, you actually are going to suffer a dice of disadvantage. So you'd remove one die from your pool. But if you do knock them out, they go to zero. So remember that if you do get into some PvP, you don't have to always kill them. You can knock them out, just a little bit more of a difficult roll. You could do overflow damage on that side as well. And basically, if you have a number of successes and you're already taking down a target, you can apply some of those successes to another target, but you'd have to reapply the new target's defense. So it'd be probably hard to do consistently, but if you can, I get some cool overflow on that side. But you can also deliberately attack multiple opponents too. Because with the multi-attack we touched on earlier, that's like if you had like a class ability or spell or something that was doing more damage to multiple targets. This way you could do it with a kind of a melee attack if somebody's in range with you, which a lot of the motion knights will be. And with that, you can do at a disadvantage to the roll. You can attack target multiple targets that are in range for your weapon. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, so that's kind of a breakdown of the core mechanics of the die system. As I said, it's a pretty mechanics light overall when you look at just the core mechanics, but your classes add on like a whole nother layer of complexity, which I think kind of keeps it engaging, at least in my view, and hopefully that'll play out when we get to the table. Yeah, shout out some of your favorite comments, or favorite features in the comments below. There were a couple variant rules we didn't cover on that side, but we wanted to give you kind of the core mechanics of the die system, and just kind of show how that plays. Yeah, definitely make sure you come through for our live actual plays next week or 2 weeks from now, the 26th and 29th. I'm really looking forward to the system, so I want to make sure you guys can see how this amazing new game plays and get a chance to win a free PDF copy for you and your crew. But like, subscribe, and until next time.